you get involved in this project of designing a society? We left for your playing a lot of tools and concepts and ways of thinking, and challenge you to make false statements, things you desire that are not realistic. You'll be punished if you try to be realistic. But the thing I wanted to talk about today is, well, two things. The designing a society project that you could become a part of, it needs to be thought of with at least one other person. The minimal number to be able to change something is 2 people or 2 groups or something, but not one person. Because what happens if it's one person, you try something and then you get the chicken pox and you don't do it and then you feel like it all collapsed. Or you try something and someone in your family gets sick and you have to take care of them, and so you don't work on your project and it seems like it all collapses. But if you have one other person, when you've got the chicken pox or someone in your family is sick, you go, hey, Kushalia, could you cover? And your friend who loves you goes, of course, yes, no problem, leave it to me. So that mutual support system is really necessary. To try to do things by yourself in terms of changing is just, it doesn't work. So that's like one very simple thing. But the second thing is, belongs to this little diagram. Elicit your or others' current self-description. Okay, so there's a few words that are odd, like illicit. Who talks about illicit? Nobody, okay. And why current self-description? Why not just self-description? So illicit needs some attention and current needs some attention. And this whole idea needs some attention. So here is something that you may see a connection to. It's possible that your description of yourself is out of date. Or my description of myself is out of date. Or your description of me is out of date. Or mine of you. By that I mean, it may be that you've been involved in things up to now that were you, but your now is not yet figured out. So Herbert used to say that statements breathe the scent. No. Statements breathe the scent of the past tense. So if somebody says, I'm a sociology major, it's a statement, but they really mean that up to now, I have been a sociology major. I was a sociology major, but now, who am I now? So trying to leave room for current. We create an impression of a friend, and then we act forever for the rest of their lives as if that's their current self-description. We don't notice that they've changed, or something has changed. And it may be about yourself, that you're actually in search of your current self-description, your current one, not your past. Elicit, why that word? Well, sideways listening, we could have used the word find out your or others' current self-description, or ask your or the other person's current self-description, or create your or other. And all these words, instead of elicit, are kind of cause and effect words. And it doesn't work, cause and effect, with someone's current self-description. You cannot say, what's your current self-description, and expect someone's going to do much more than protect themselves from the arrogance of that question. So elicit means creating a context where another person or yourself has the potential to start daydreaming their current self-description. That they would, in this context, maybe ask some friends to bring a favorite poem. That's not yet asking them, what is your current self-description? But in the atmosphere of favorite poems being read, and that stirring of the air that eloquence causes or creates, possibly a person would start thinking of, what is my current self-description? So elicit assumes the autonomy of the individual and doesn't put much hope in cause and effect questions. Doesn't think that people do much more than trying to brush off the question. So, getting involved in designing a society is important in relation to figuring out, creating your current self-description, and then consulting your false statements, and then finding partners in this conversation, and then not believing that the it outside there is big and you're so little, what I call the big it, little me. This kind of image we have that reality is so huge and how can you change it? Nah, that's just the attitude of someone who doesn't yet have their current self-description, doesn't yet have a partner in crime, and doesn't yet have a project or a program or 5 tea parties with friends coming up in the next month where you're going to discuss things of importance. The it is only big when you're not creating something in relation to it. So get yourself a partner in conversation where you love that person's presence and you disagree with them and you discuss everything until you're blue. Ask each other for false statements. Look at some of the concepts that we've offered to play around with. Would nesting help? Would edges help? Would polyfunctionality help? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we invite you to design a society in which you wish to live.